Welcome to the D&D Fitness Radio podcast, brought to you by your hosts Don Saladino from New York City and Derek Hansen from Vancouver, Canada.
What up?
Hey guys.
Where are you right now?
I am in Seattle.
Just in Seattle.
Actually, I'm in Bellevue. Have you ever been here?
No, but I was just in Seattle. I was off of Lake Washington. Derek's in Vancouver. Derek, Geena, Derek.
Hey, Derek.
What are you doing in Seattle?
I am here for work. So my full-time job kind of leads
What is your
me.
full-time job?
I'm a senior manager, and I manage strategic partners for a company that helps small businesses with like their operations, their HR, their benefits, their payroll. So kind of like a one-stop shop HR turnkey model. But I manage the partnerships. So I manage on the bank partnerships. So banks all across like the country. I'll come and I'll go to like Seattle, for instance, and I'll like wine and dine, connect bankers with like my sales force to ensure that they're referring business to each other. So like I was at the Chase Center doing the Lakers and Warriors game. So I hosted a couple of like venture capital people, investors out there. And that's what I do. It's fun.
So now this is what's funny. So Derek, let me tell you a story of how Geena and I met. And this was honestly like, it might sound seedy, but it's really not. So we were in Nashville, and because I'm in golf fitness, right? I work with Golf Channel, Golf Pass. I saw her handle a couple of times in my feed because a lot of golf's going to pop up, right? So I'm at a bar trying to get a beer. We're with a group of friends, and she looks at me and she's like, "Can I squeeze through here to get a drink?" I'm like, "Be my guest. I can't get this guy's attention." And then she kind of moved in, and obviously she got the guy's attention, right? So I'm like, "Hold on, order me a beer. I'm buying you and your friend a drink." And then she ordered me a beer, and then whatever. And then we turn around. I was like, "You're a little familiar," and this and that. And then I realized I thought you were in the golf business. So that's like so that's what's kind of cool about this is you started the game. So I want to hear about your obsession with golf. Like Derek and I, we're always about interviewing interesting people. We're always about interviewing someone who's passionate, that dove into the golf space. I think you have this whole social media background as well now, and you're pretty good at it. So talk to us about golf, how you got into this later in your career, and talk about what you're trying to do with that exactly.
So I think like I'm very career driven. Like that's first and foremost. I think the first thing I always look at when I'm anywhere or when I'm doing anything, and I'm 42, is this a business opportunity, right? So I think that's kind of where when we were speaking at the bar, I was like, well, let's see how Dawn and I can do this on a business opportunity perspective, right? So that said, this golf thing was a business opportunity for me, focused in like partnerships, focused on taking VCs and private equity and investors out and founders out, either going to a restaurant or a happy hour or something. Everyone would always talk about golf around me. And this was about 3 years ago, and I was a senior sales consultant at the time for the same company. And I was like, they were like, "Hey, you should, there's this golf tournament. Why don't you, come and hit some balls with us? Why don't you bring a foursome together and it'll be good for your networking. It'll be good for your peers. It'll be good for you to like kind of get into golf." And I was like, "Dude, I don't know how to freaking hit a ball." And like literally it was like at a tournament. It was a really nice course in Orange County, and my swing was like really flimsy, flimsy. And the thing was like I was really embarrassed, right? Because now I'm playing with like a bunch of guys who obviously play golf and are founders of their own company. So that was like 2019, November 2019. And that was when it kind of clicked, because I was trying to get in front of this private equity guy for like months, and emails weren't working, doing things like trying to get his attention wasn't working. And I met him at a luncheon, and I had just joined a country club out in Orange County. And I knew that I was like, if I needed to get in front of these guys, I needed to pick up sticks, right? I needed to like figure it out how I was. And so initially it was just like a business thing. And the guy was like, "Hey," he's like, "Oh, you play golf?" And I totally fucking lied. I was like, "Yeah, of course I do." I was like, "Yeah, I golf." And he was like, "Cool." He's like, "Well, let's go and get on a country club, And I was like, "Great." So then by that point, I was like, shit, I really need to figure out how to like, at least swing a club. So that was like January 2020, played golf with him. Obviously, I played like shit. But at the end of the round, he was like, what, like, tell me about your company again. And he's like, I think I have this company that's a good fit for your company. And I got the company, I got him as a client. And that's when I was like, okay, this is working. So then I took lessons in January 2020. I went out and bought like beginner set Stratus. And then pandemic hit in March 2020. And so I was like, oh, okay, here we go. Right. So that was when I kind of was like, okay, now I started, figuring out, okay, people were members of country clubs. I was getting meetings. I was getting in front of, the people that I needed to get in front of. And obviously Southern California, it's like fair weather all year long. So I started kind of like hitting balls like during the pandemic, but it wasn't until like May 2020 when they allowed us to finally get out and, do the whole like single cart use only, that one of my buddies was just like, hey, let's go out and golf. And so from May 2020, I was golfing like once a week, and it just like my swing got better. I stopped taking lessons because it just, for me, I felt like I was just out there hitting more. And I was hitting May 2020, like every week. And then to like August 2020, and my birthday's in August, I was like, I'm going to go out and get my own set. I'm going to go out and buy a better set. I got stealths. I got, like TaylorMade Sim 2s. And then that was when I was like playing more. I was playing country clubs. I was playing, Spyglass. I got promoted to this position. So then there's a lot of, Pro-Am Pebble Beach tournament. So I was getting really involved in golf. And by this point, I was like playing like 20 courses for someone that's only started playing like in 8 months. And then in June 2021, I was chatting it up with like one of my buddies who's like in the social media world. And he's like, dude, you've got this big journey. Like, and like you've played Spyglass. Like not many people can sit there and say they've played Spyglass, in 8 months. Sure. And I was like, really? I was like, he's like, you need to figure out how to share your journey with people. And, and I think they'll love it. I think they'll love your origin story. I think they'll love the fact that you're obviously, a 42-year-old businesswoman. And, I'm Vietnamese American. So there's not a lot of us out there, and I think, and he just felt like it could be a really good role model for other females that want to pick up golf and just are really intimidated by it. And so that was January 2021. And like a year later, now I have, 63,000 followers, and then it just became this thing.
No, it's a pretty cool story. And I think you were kind of alluding to how this is becoming like happy hours are changing, right? Like I'm a little older than you. I'm 46. Derek's a little older than I am. And I used to hate the word networking. Like I've been in the fitness business pretty much most of my adult life. And I could never stand when I was working with a lot of these, Wall Street people, like, oh, we're doing a networking event. It's a networking event. I always kind of roll my eyes because you'd always think of this stereotypical, like, guy in a suit sitting there with a cocktail, like trying to like strum business off of someone. Yeah. It's part of how the world works, right? But people now are getting so much more health conscious. They don't necessarily want to always be in a bar now. Like they're tired of feeling like shit. Getting on the golf course is something that connects with a lot more people, whether you're good or you're not. I mean, most people aren't good at the game of golf. It's fucking hard. Like I've been playing for a long time. And if I start backing off the game a little bit, my scores start going up. I start going back to my old swing tendencies. When I dive into it a few weeks in, I'm like, all right, it's coming back. I actually think it's a bit harder than fitness. Like you have to be as consistent, if not more consistent with golf than even with fitness, because there's other things in fitness that we can do, to stay in great shape. Derek?
Yeah, I'm impressed because obviously you're a late adopter, and like I live next to a golf course and I don't golf. I suck. Like I don't even want to go there. I don't even want to try it, Don, because I know it's going to be bad and then I have to put a lot of work in. So you that didn't seem to inhibit you at all. You just seem like, okay, I want to do this. Obviously you have a love for it. But you explained it a bit there, but how do you get into something that complex, like in terms of the biomechanics? And yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's funny is like, a lot of people ask me if like I'm an athlete, right? And I think Dawn and I were chatting it up a little bit and, asking like in my younger years, like, yeah, I was a cheerleader in the 8th grade. I played volleyball, in high school. I was I would call myself a pool shark, but I played billiards. I mean, little eye-hand coordination, stuff like that, right? So, but it wasn't so much that I'm an athlete by any means, because I was a little, chubby girl in college and I got made fun of. And it took a long time for me to get to a point where, I feel fit in my 40s. And it's taken a long time to get there. So I think in this like time and place in my life where I felt like, okay, I can actually, I'm in a very healthy, fit time in my life. I say that 3 times, but it's true, right? So now I'm feeling like, okay, I can actually go out there. I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling that I can, probably, I do have really good eye-hand coordination. So I can probably do this. But to Dawn's point, it's like, if you don't play, if you don't practice, if you're not swinging, you're literally forgetting, and it's muscle memory. And for the most part, like, and this is really embarrassing to say, but I never knew how to ride a bike till I was 40 years old. And the reason for that is because, being Vietnamese American, I was born in a refugee camp. My mom and my dad came over from a boat to America. I'm the youngest. We were really poor growing up. And so that said, and I grew up in Houston, Texas. It was really hot outside. So I never had a bike. And then you grew up and you're like, okay, you just forget. You just like, okay, well, there's not really a need for a bike at this point. And then when the pandemic hit and I'm 40 years old, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go buy a bike on Craigslist. And I taught myself how to ride a bike. Really embarrassing. And I'm saying this on a podcast.
No, I think it's cool. I think it's actually refreshing, because I know there's a couple people who I'm friends with. They're like, I don't know how to swim. Like, there's just things in your life when you're in a specific environment. I don't want you to be embarrassed about that, because I think it's more normal than you think, right? It was the environment that you were in. Like, I know, like, my wife is from Las Vegas. Like, there is no way in God's name. Like, and I loved running, but running in Vegas in June, July, August, September, like, you're running. When I was there last year, Derek, when I landed in Vegas, 10 p.m., I got off the flight. The temperature at 10 p.m. was 110. During the day, it was 120, got up to as high as 124. You're not going to put yourself into that environment to do that. And then, yes, decades go by, and then suddenly you're like, oh shit, I haven't learned how to ride a bike. But golf, in my eyes, is, I mean, I don't even think it's a comparison. I think it's the most difficult sport. I think there's so many factors. There's so many variables. Like, you can be great hitting off the tee. Oh, guess what? That's just a portion of the game. Yeah, you're not hitting long irons yet. You're not hitting short irons yet. Completely different game. Are you good around the greens? Are you good in the bunkers? How are you on the green? Right? Like, there's all these, it's like all these different games in this one game. And as you know, you could be out hitting the ball beautifully and 3-putt every hole, and suddenly you're hitting a high score. Or, Phil Mickelson, I used to go, watching him play. I was shocked. He could be all over the fairway. And the guy had this level of confidence where, well, it doesn't matter. I'm on the other fairway. I'm making birdie here. And I'd be traveling with tour players, and I would hear that type of confidence in him. But to pick something up in your 40s, especially golf, it is hard. Like, you have to put on. So what do you do? Like, are you on this is where one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you was, one, I find what you do very interesting, but I'm in the fitness business. Derek's a world-renowned running mechanics coach. And the thing that we hear from certain people is they get depressed. Like, oh, I'm in my 30s. I'm in my 40s. I'm in my 50s, 60s. It's almost too late. I haven't been doing this since I'm a kid. How am I going to get into shape? How am I going to learn this? How am I going to get fast? Derek still sprints at 50, Derek, what are you now? 52?
53. Yeah.
See, I was paying you. I was giving you a little
You're
props there.
53, Derek. I mean, come on. You look 25.
I'm half Asian. So
There you
there you go.
So what is your regimen? Because you are, I consider you someone that's kind of obsessed with the sport, right? I mean, you would probably not have, like, I like playing. Could I play 7 days a week? I don't know. I could probably play 3-4 days a week and be really happy. You're someone that I believe that could probably get up there, do your morning routine, and just play and practice, and maybe not get bored of it. Maybe I'm wrong, but like, what do you?
No, sorry to cut you off, but it's true. Like, it's literally like, it's in your dreams. You get up and like, you have the itch. And Derek, maybe I didn't ever answered your question back to like, kind of like how I got into it and why. I mean, it's definitely like back to the whole career and business opportunities. That's the first and foremost for me, that it's like being able to get on a course, play 4 hours. And look, alcohol I know is probably like the worst thing for you when it comes to fitness, but I'm a bit of a lush, right? I like to drink. It's one of my, it's like something that, I like to do. Anyway.
What's the drink of choice? Drink of choice.
My drink of choice, Tito's and soda. It's easy. It's low calorie,
Clean.
And I'm not like where I'm like drinking all the time, but that it's a part of my job, right? I'm out there entertaining and taking clients out. And so on the course, it just makes a lot of sense where, and I'm the type of, quote unquote salesperson that I never talk business on the course. I never talk business during the round. It's really just getting to know the person with me, whether it's Don or you, Derek, or a client that I'm trying to sign up or anything like that. So that initially was the main reason. And then it just became addiction. It became like, okay, these guys are really good. They're obviously a handicap of, 10 or 6 or sometimes 1. I'm a 19 handicap for 3 years. I guess that's okay. But it was initially for me, like being able to keep up with them. So that was my first, I had short-term goals. It was like, okay, first thing is like, how do I keep up with these guys? So I'm not, obviously lingering back and they have to wait for me at the women's tees and all this stuff. And to your point, Dawn, there's a lot of different, aspects of it. And then the second part was like, okay, now I want to beat them. How do I get better? So then that's when I started taking lessons with George Gankis and, meeting just a bunch of different people. Obviously, everyone has their own opinion and judgment on my swing on social media, take everything with a grain of salt. I know they're trying to be helpful. And then,
no, they're not. They're not trying to be helpful. Fucking, nice. Come on, keep it fucking real with me right now. They are not trying to be helpful. Everyone pokes. Everyone wants to like come in there and give their 2 cents. They don't know the full picture. They don't know what your injury history is. They don't know how you move, yet they're turning around. Like a buddy of mine had full spinal fusion. People are ripping him up about his swing. I'm like, this is the only way the guy can rotate.
Yeah.
Ripping him up about his swing. It's like, it's the same, sorry to interrupt, but it's the same problem in fitness. If someone's in the gym and they're pointing the finger, one, they're an asshole, in my opinion. Excuse my language. Derek, I'm getting pissed off right now, seriously. But they're passing judgment on someone in the gym. They don't know the full story. Derek, you and I spoke about this. You had someone in my gym. If someone's going to come in and watch me, they don't know the story. They don't know why you're doing what you're doing. Sorry, Geena.
Well, look at John Rahm.
Piss me off there.
He's a perfect example, right? But yeah, I mean, I have a tear in my right knee. I'm a lefty and I play right? So I'm a right-handed golfer, but I'm a left-hand person. And so, there's always like, oh, you've got a really strong grip. You've got to do this. Yeah, I get it, right? But guess what? I'm going down the middle 99% of the time. My distance could probably be a little bit better, but I'm keeping up with the Joneses. I can do pars, I can do birdies. But that said, I think going with what I'm deciding to do with this and like where it's going is like, I honestly, truly, genuinely just love to golf. Like it's like, and the thing is like, some people are like, oh, Geena, why don't you record yourself putting? Or why don't you record yourself chipping? Or why is it always a joke? Because that's not my first and primary priority is to get myself on camera. My priority there when I'm playing is to play. Is to focus on playing, to have a good round. So if it just so happens like my buddies with me and they're like, oh, hey, you want me to like record your swing? I'm like, sure. But it's not something that I'm like, I have someone following me the whole time and recording me. And I just think for me, that's just not who I am.
You put little blips up. Derek, you want to add to that?
I'm just curious, like how has it improved, accentuated your day job, your regular business, day-to-day stuff? Like, has it added a significant value for you?
Yeah, I mean, a few things. One, I think I've added clients, right? I think it's opened up huge opportunities for me to meet so many people. So that to me is just mind blowing of how many people I've met over the course of 3 years. I think, like I'm playing in a tournament on June 2nd right now. And I'm like, oh, there's obviously a Rolodex of people that I want to be in my foursome. But, I'm very strategic on who I want to be in my foursome. Is it a good fit for my company? Would it be, and I want to have that like kind of synergy between the 4 of us. And And at the end of the day, I just want to have fun. Like
Right.
that's for me. Like I just want to have a good time, you know.
No,
So that.
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I think that to me is like, the biggest thing is like, one, does it work in my day job, right? And so, but then sometimes like I'm playing Spanish Bay next week, and I was like, look, I'm playing with a banker, and he invited me. So it's always going to be surrounding with that first, like my day job. But after that, I'll be like, all right, like I'm going to go play Spyglass just for the hell of it and the stuff like that.
It really is. It's kind of ironic because it's one of it's like the sport that you don't have to be pro in, or you don't have to be, I mean, I think, once you start getting into the teens, you're creeping on, becoming a good player. And if you have that obsession for loving the process of the game, I feel like, and I talk about it with fitness, like if you're going to sit there and just obsess over a score every day, oh my God, I got to break 80. I got to break 80. I got to break 80. Well, you know what? Like you're probably going to crumble every time, you're going into 17 and 18 and you gotta, you're almost there. Right. And we've seen this happen and everyone goes through it. Fitness, to me, it's the same way. It's all right. Well, if you're standing on the scale every day going, why isn't the scale moving? Like you got to pay attention to the process for you to get into great shape. And what I always say is, listen, you got to just enjoy training. You gotta find some type of enjoyment out of leaving, whether it's a workout, a run, a walk, saying, wow, I did good for myself, or like eating good, healthy food. That made me feel good. Having your drinks once in a while is not a problem, right? It's, when I have no problem with that ever. It's just when it starts overtaking your life. What is your outlook now on the game when it comes to the process? Are you more of a person, I'm kind of putting you on the gun here, like, are you more of a person where like it's all about score, or are you really one of those that just enjoys to play?
No, I just enjoy to play.
Okay. And that's why you're obsessed with it. Because if it was
That's
all
why
about sports, everyone would hate it.
Yeah. I honestly, I mean, do I try to play well? Yeah. Do I skip a couple of holes because I'm like mentally not there? Yes. Right.
Sure.
And I know it fucks with my score. Would I be disappointed if I got a snowman? Right. Fuck yeah. That's my putting sucks. Right. So still working on my putting. Right. Which is giving me the high scores. I mean, if I'm triple putting, it's easily a triple bogey sometimes, because I can't seem to get on the green and two sometimes on a long par 4. So I know that it's going to be a struggle. So I've got to get my putting down, so things like that, like I'll think of like the score wise, like if I break it out, like, hey, I want to shoot under, 90, I want to shoot under 100, and this is where I need to, I obviously need to have a couple pars, a couple of birdies, things like that. But for the most part, like I'm just out. And to your point, Don, you're like, is it just out having fun? Yeah, I'm only out having fun because I don't know about you and Derek. You said you don't really golf, but like my guy friends like know the fucking course like the back of their hand. They can play it once and then we'll play it again and they'll be like, oh man, this was the part, this is the hole where I did this, and I, and I'm like, I don't pay attention to that because I'm just there to have fun. I'm just there to swing a club and get it in the hole.
It's a good attitude to have in the game, because what I see is, people start looking for too much perfection in the game, right, Derek? And I talked to a lot of my young players about it. I was playing last week with a friend of mine who's on the Corn Ferry Tour right now, another friend of mine who's going down to go through Q school this fall. And we were talking about expectation on the course. And, listen, I've shot low 70s and I've shot 90. Like it's the spread in the game is amazing. Like
what did you shoot this weekend, Don?
Last week?
Yeah. What did you shoot?
I think, God, it was my first full round out of the year. I think I shot 86.
That's really good.
I think I shot, no, I feel like for me, that's not a good round, but my first full round since October, it's like, but I'm not like, I don't beat myself up over the game. I'm more concerned with like taking good swings, making sure tempo's good club decision, hitting some good shots. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like this one went awry, that one went awry. Like it's going to happen. And I watched the course. I almost felt like, oh no, that was great. First one under my belt. Awesome. But when I was talking to these players, they're getting up and they're picking a spot that they're trying to hit. I get it. I want to hit the right side of the fairway off the stripe. And then when they hit the left side of the fairway up the stripe, they're getting all obsessed and they're complaining. And I'm like, I'm not the group I was playing with, but other young players. I'm like, you're expecting perfection out of something That is so imperfect. Like you're not, and if you do that, you're going to drive yourself crazy, Derek, right? Derek, you've worked with athletes where they're expecting things that are way out of their reach. And I think this actually damages people from their not only enjoyment of the game, being able to play as well as they could potentially play. When you're talking to someone who's possibly becoming a pro in something, you definitely shouldn't have that attitude. I think you're going to shit the bed. But what are your, Derek, what are your thoughts on expectations with a lot of these athletes?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time you have to talk to them about being patient, right? And this instant gratification thing obviously is getting worse. And that's possibly why I'm not going to try golf, because I want instant results and I don't want to put in the time. So but yeah, anybody I've worked with, it's like, hey, this is going to take time. This is going to take the entire off season if you're a pro athlete, and maybe a couple of off seasons to develop this. So I think that's a bit of a lost art right now, is like, like when they used to build buildings back, 500 years ago, it used to take 100 years to build a church or something, and now everybody wants it up like that. So I think we've lost that quality, that patience, and that meticulousness of like working on something.
Where do you see, Geena, where do you see the golf, where do you see golf going? Right? Like I mean, you always hope that it continues. Like, I think certain things like Top Golf, fantastic, right? Because I think now they're finally finding a way to take the game of golf. They're finally finding a way to put a club in someone's hand for a short period of time and really make it fun.
Yeah.
Because that's what I think really interested me about you, is that most people who get into the game later on, you're still very young, but like still at 42, it's a later time in your life to pick up a golf club, right? And you admit that. But where do you see the golf? Where do you see golf going? Like, do you think we need to do more things like Top Golf? I think what you're doing with social media right now actually really helps the game of golf out, because now there's going to be, a young woman watching you, or someone being like, oh, wow, those are cool outfits. Wow. Like she's making the game really cool. Wow. She really enjoys it. Now I'm really interested in potentially trying this. And it could be for something as simple as like, oh my God, I love her outfit. I want to go out. Think about that, right?
It's awesome to get like actual messages from females who actually do, instill the reason why I'm doing this, right? Which is, one, making it fun, doing it because, obviously there's a lot of different reasons, right? I'm a minority, I'm a female, I'm, in regards to age demographics. So it's really great when I get the messages from, other females going, hey man, it's so awesome to see you. I'm also 42 and this person lives like in Asia, and they're like, or in the UK. Oh my God, it's amazing to see you doing this journey. You know what? I'm going to stick with it. Or even men who would be like, I'm 55 and, I've heard, I've been wanting to golf so much. And so now like you're making this really fun and you're, realizing, what, you can start this at any given time. And golf being around for so long, and the fact that like everyone is picking it up like today, it's because everything is like a full cycle, right? Like it's something, it could be the pants that you wore in the 90s is now this, the trend today. Golf has been around for so long. It is a trend today. Sriracha has been around for so long. It is a trend today, And so like, I think, and it's funny because all I knew of golf 3 years ago was the PGA Tour, right? And that was like it. And I thought it was the most boring ass shit ever. I would never watch it on TV. And I was like, this is some lame shit. Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, whatever. Awesome, great. Like, okay. But now it's like, now that this has opened so many doors for me, there's so many golf clubs. There's so many like former athletes that are playing. There's so many like, young 20-year-old kids from all different shapes, sizes, age, ethnicity that's doing it. Is it a hip thing, a trend thing? Probably, I think, where they're starting to like feel like, okay, this is, they've picked it up. Now they're playing it for fun. Now they're drinking. Now it's all about, the outfit that you're wearing. But I think it's an okay thing. I think anyone who's been playing for so long, 20 plus years, probably is not happy with where it's going. Because obviously tee times are taken. There's a lot of different rules and regulations. The country club that I was in, got bought out by Travis Brashers with Travis Matthews, and he changed up the dress code policy. Now you could wear flip-flops and shorts and you could play at a country club. But then there's also,
how do you feel about that? What's your honest opinion?
I think there's, there's a very thin line. I think as long as you're not rude, as long as you're not, doing anything, like, I guess, like for me, like if you're out there, you just obviously want your sandals, flip flops, because I live in Huntington Beach, so it's obviously a beach city. And so like if you're doing it and you're hanging out, you're playing, cool, but don't like start fucking like drinking beers and throwing it and like, doing just non-golf etiquette like that, or just disrespect, right? So to me that's okay. But then there's a country club that my friend still is a member, and they still don't allow females and males to sit together. So that's like super old school. Yeah. So you like when I'm there, like I just can't be anywhere near the men's section, so, and I'm not cool with that for sure.
Right. So what about, with your whole social media, and then Derek, I'm going to kick it over to you. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead, but I'm really curious here. I think your social media is really interesting. And like, I know you're not asking my opinion. I think you need to put your foot on the gas with it, because I think though it started as something that might've seemed fun and playful. Like, I think you should be showing people your story. I think you should be showing them maybe how you practice, how you play, being out on the course. I think it tells a story. And I think what you're really doing is you're making golf less stuffy, and you're making it more fun. And in a way, you are making it kind of cool for a lot of these young females, because how you're portraying yourself. And you're like, okay, listen, I'm a young woman. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a strong woman. Like, I like to be out here and play. I like to be out here doing my business here. Landing business, connecting with people. I think that's a really good message to show people. And I know maybe you weren't thinking about that when you were starting, but it's kind of ironic how you ended up in my feed a week before I met you, because I saw you. I was like, oh, well, is she a pro? I kind of like, because you're always interested. When I see someone with a golf club, I'm always like, boom. Like, I'm always interested to see, like, one of the funniest people on all of social is that golfer, that guy Manolo? Yeah. Who does like the fake accents, right? Like I find him, like, he's hilarious. So like, is that good or bad for the game? I think in a way it does shed a good light on the game, because I think he's joking, he's having fun, whether people find that funny or not. I find that he's taking a game that in the past has been portrayed as very stiff, very tight. Like, I've been to certain clubs where like, oh yeah, 100%, I'm taking my Hulk golf cover off my driver and I'm putting the old, like, you have to, like, there's just certain, what's that?
They won't let you put it like,
no, they'll kind of look at you like, and I'm talking like the top, talking about clubs in like the top 10 in the world, like that I've gone to. It's like, all right, like, you don't want to embarrass the member. Let's just put it that way. They're coming with a big Hulk cover like this. So I'm like toning it down a little bit. But yeah, it's interesting to see how the game is, I think, becoming a little bit more diversified, even with the Live Tour, right? I mean, that's kind of loosened up a little bit.
Yeah. Let me switch it on you guys. What do you guys think of the Live Tour?
Derek, you want me to go first, or do you have an opinion on it?
Hey, it's all about money.
Yeah. I think the PGA Tour was running a monopoly for years. I think it's really, I think it's very difficult. I think it's the hardest sport to become established in. I mean, when you're looking at the playoffs takes, the top 125 in the world. I mean, that's like 2 NFL teams right there. It's like, think about it. Like, think about how, and the age and the age split. I mean, you can have 18-year-olds playing. You can have men in their 50s. Yeah. It's so wide. So many people play. So many people could start playing later in their career. And, I think competition is a good thing, right? I would love at a certain point to almost see like a World Series of golf at the end of the season, like after the Barclays is over, or, after their playoffs are over. Like, could you take the top 10 guys from the Live and the top 10 guys from the PGA Tour according to points and have them play in kind of like a Ryder Cup format? That, to me, I think is good for the game. Can you loosen it up now and maybe say, you know what, the tour player guys can play in shorts now? Like, it's 110 degrees in Georgia in some of these events, and these guys are in black pants. It's just kind of like, oh my God. Like, I think the game has to grow and evolve a little bit. I think on the other hand, Live, like, I think the techno music, when you're walking around a little much, like, would rather see a little classic rock, right? Like, I think there's ways. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, maybe a little Zeppelin rather than feeling like walking out of Sound Factory, you know, at 7 a.m. with my jaw over here. Like, I don't, it's like, you know, what do you think?
You know, I'm like kind of a very even keel person. I like balance. I like things like that in my life. You know, I grew up a Buddhist, so I think for me, it's like everything. I'm like peace, love, and happiness kind of person. So like for me, it's like, look, you do you, right? Like if this is something you want, if this, to your point, Don, earlier, like, you know, if people don't know their health history, things like that, people will always have an opinion on everything. People always say something. So like you don't know, you know, what these guys are dealing with, right? And why they made the decision to go. Is it about money? Probably. Is it because of they have a family and they're looking at it like, you know, for a nest egg and retirement and they, you know, they can do this by, you know, by this one particular reason? Yeah, absolutely. Right. So I feel like it's like we're all our own individual human being and we should just allow people just to kind of make that decision for their own reasons.
I think it's definitely I think it's good for the game. I think it's good for a lot of these players. And I can't blame a lot of these players who are on the tour, Derek. Like if you're in your 40s and then suddenly the Live Tour is offering you 50, 75, 150 million bucks to pick up and go over there. Like we don't know what's going to happen with our bodies. Like you don't know, suddenly Dustin Johnson takes a swing and he ruptures a disc in his lower back. You're like, okay, great. Like now what? Like, and there's so much competition, but I just hope, all I hope right now is that like anything else, it opens the doors for more players to come in. I hope it brings more popularity to the game where more people want to play. It's such a beautiful game. You don't want to see it get diminished. I mean, listen, it's time consuming. Sometimes you're on the course going, what the fuck am I doing here, man? It's like I've been playing this game since I'm a kid and like you go fire off a 90 and then the week earlier you shoot a 73, 74. It's like, it's a hard game. My brother, who's actually a well-known amateur in the area, was pro, turned back amateurs, played in like, I don't know, 13, whatever is US amateurs. I saw him one week shoot 61 in a tournament. And then I saw him come back a week later and shoot 80. Like that's a 19 shot swing. That's a 19 shot swing. Like same player, but that's the game for you.
Yeah. And he's, like you said, like, you know, he's a pro-am. So like, or even going from hole to hole, right? I mean, you're like, you just birdied and then next, you know, you just triple bogeyed on the next hole. It's pretty crazy. And my journey, you know, Derek, if you're not familiar, it's about different courses. So it's about playing different courses. So there's some of my buddies who are, you know, will play that one course every weekend. And it's like, obviously either they're a member or, you know, it's just something like, that's just what they do. Like for me, I'm like, oh, like I'm bored. I want to go play. And the reason for that is because when you're playing, every hole is different. You know, Dawn and I were talking about how I played Beth Page. You know, I mean, once I hear there's like a course that I need to play, like I will figure out how to get there, you know? And so like I'm playing the Tobacco Road in North Carolina next month. And that's obviously supposed to be one of the best courses as well. So things like that, you know, is really intriguing to me. It's challenging. I love like putting myself up for a challenge. But back to your question, Don, in regards to like what I'm planning on doing with this whole Instagram thing. It's like I want everything to be extremely organic. Like I don't want to push anything, but I also know that as a businesswoman, you've got to have some type of strategy. You've got to have some type of, you know, plan and, you know, or am I just doing this for fun and, you know, and then, you know, call it a day. So I'm planning on doing a kind of like my own brand where it'll be, you know, like G Money, right? So that's what people call me. It started with G and then became G Money and then just stuck. But it, you know, kind of like my like golf balls, markers, things like that, and kind of being able to represent kind of in a sense the underdog, because my following and who I really contribute to and what my focus is like the average golfer, right? Does everyone want to put me in a little bucket as, you know, this golfer girl, golfer babe, golfer whatever, you know? Yeah, do I wear skimpy outfits? Look, it's fucking strategy. I mean, it's a business. Come on.
Thank you.
You know,
that's okay though. How's it any different? I'm on TV wearing a sleeveless shirt. How's it any fucking different?
Mm-hmm.
It's not. This is marketing. This is part of what we have to do. But thank you for being honest there. That's awesome.
So, so I feel like, but again, going back to like, I think that how I'm trying to differentiate the females in this game and also be able to, kind of bring value, I guess, right? Is like to say, look, let's play golf. It is a fun game. It is a challenging game. It is also any age game. And I am representing the average golfer in my own way, right? I don't plan on probably ever shooting under 80. That could potentially happen. Who knows? But I think it's just the fact that, like, if I'm out there and I'm representing, a company or representing myself, and I obviously get invited to tournaments, it's really about like just having fun, and like being able to say like, oh shit, Gina's here. Oh, she likes to have fun. She plays golf. She likes to drink. She likes to smoke cigars. She likes do this. But at the same time, I do take it seriously. So just out there, I do take the game seriously, and I do want to keep playing better and better as I get going. But to your point, Don, I don't know. Maybe I need an agent. I don't know where to go from here. I'm kind of stuck.
Key?
Favorite golf movie for both of you?
Ooh,
I don't know if there's been a lot,
in.
but
I got it.
Don?
Don, I'm in.
Golf movie of all time is Greatest Game Ever Played.
Huh.
Have you ever seen it? It's with Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
I will honestly, if the last scene of the movie, you're not cracking a tear, you're not a human being. It was
Wow.
that good. It was about Francis we met, who was one of the only amateur, I think he was the only amateur ever to win the US Open. So we met spelled with an O. So Shia LaBeouf is playing Francis we met. He's a young kid, and he went into the US Open, and the next he's battling against Harry Vardon and Ted Ray and these like well-known players, and he wins the fucking whole thing. And it was like a whole story with his dad, how his dad's like, you can't be playing golf. Golf's for gentlemen. You're not a gentleman. It was like a whole era. And I've watched the movie 100 times, and it's phenomenal.
Wow.
Go watch it.
Gotta definitely watch it.
Watch it. Gina,
Yeah.
you got one or no?
What's that?
You have a favorite movie?
My favorite. Okay, so I'm it's funny because obviously he's your client, but I'm a big Marvel geek. So that's my thing. I love Marvel. I don't know what it is. Like I think it's just the kid in me, but like I literally have like DVDs of it at home, and I'll watch it. Like if I'm bored, and obviously there's like thousands of movies out there. I don't go out and I pick like a new movie. I'll go out and I'll just like watch like, oh, I'm bored. Oh, let's just watch a Marvel movie. I don't know what it is. But then it became this like weird, also like kind of random thing I love that I have. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I've considered, so I'm starting a golf podcast.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so it's with my buddy Rob from Fly Fairways, and where, it's more about just like talking golf, talking business, talking everything, talking about your, what you're wearing, talking about like, just, and the guests are just can be anyone from like a pizza delivery guy who loves golf and why, right? Like to your point, like, hey, let's just interview this guy. Like what made him pick up a club, all the way to a PGA player like Aaron Beverly, who's, who was introduced by Tiger Woods at the Riv last year. So it's just kind of fun. And I've noticed, like, I mean, everyone has picked up a mic, and started their own podcast. But I've had so many ideas that I need to put pen to paper. I was, obviously I think it's with Jerry Seinfeld, coffee in cars, comedians with coffee in cars. And I thought this would be a great idea. Like if Don, you and I went on and played 9 holes and we just mic'd up and we just shot the shit,
I would do it. That to me is fun. Like that stuff, any excuse I can get onto the course and kind of collaborate with other people. I think that's like a dream. That's why even with this fitness stuff here, me and my friends, and I bring people in and we train and we just mic up and it's content. Like it's just a fun story. I'm in. Let me know. Let's go.
Do it. All right. Cool.
So do me a favor, tell our listeners right now. Thank you for your time, by the way. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you, your social media challenges, your social media handle, if you have any questions?
Yeah. So if you want to chat, it's golfer girl _G Money.
Yep.
I am not much of a social media person, so I do not have like Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. It's really strictly Instagram. And it's, yep, golfer girl underscore G Money. I also am in collaboration with Golf Gamebook.
Nice.
And Golf Gamebook is an app where you can actually chat with me real time. You can see like my actual like scoring real time when I'm playing around. So like if I'm at Spanish Bay and you want to like just watch me, like, okay, she's on hole 2, right? Or it's really fun if you're playing with your buddies too. But yeah, so that's something that is really big for like my people to follow and to chat with me and like kind of do that. So yeah, thank you so much, guys, for your time. Derek.
Oh, you kidding me? It was a pleasure. Do me a favor, keep your foot on the gas with the social media. I think you're onto something here. And then when you launch your brand, like let me know how we can help out. All right.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Geena.
Thank you.
Good night.